potential employers, for example?
Yes, we are talking to potential employers, and our own independent market research demonstrates there is a positive market sentiment for the employment provision and business accommodation, and plans for the employment land remains in early concept stage and will continue to be refined and developed in response to the market. Does that help?
I think so. I will cogitate on it and come back to you when I've thought it through.
Thank you.
I'm down to the last two, Chair.
Before you move on, anybody else got anything on employment? Mr. Oxley.
Yes, this is actually one of my own questions. With regards to employment, what guarantees can we have that St George's won't actually act as a hub for people to drive to for work? So there will be an increase in traffic on the roads as a result of any employment which is created at St George's.
Obviously, one of the things we're very clear about the St George's development is that there will be development of employment and housing on a sort of step-by-step basis, so we will try and minimise the number of journeys needed outside to come to it. But in the early days, obviously, there will be the construction traffic should it go ahead. But we will manage to develop a structure there that gives employment, and there will obviously be facilities to work from home as we build the site out.
Mr. Brown has indicated he wants to respond as well, and I have a question relating to that. When the new towns were developed, for example Stevenage, that I know well, you couldn't have a house there unless you were employed in that area. Are we considering whether we have any options like that going forward? Mr. Brown, you can only answer while officers are thinking about that element.
Can I answer the previous part of the question? It relates to driving to the site. One of the points about the HIF money is that the HIF allows us to subsidise public transport in the early days. And the objective of that is to encourage people to use public transport and to have it available at the times that they're working. As you know, it is difficult to put public transport on the hope that people will use it. With the support of the HIF, we're able to do that, and therefore get people into the habit of using public transport for travelling back and forward from the main centres. And that is a piece of work that the Transport and Traffic subgroup will be working on.
Mr. Ransom.
I think overall we can't control where people live and work in the relationship between the two. Obviously, the allocation of employment of this is about trying to create a balanced community in itself. And to answer your specific question, I think it's not possible to do what was probably done around Stevenage at that time within the confines of national planning policy now.
Thank you. I don't know, there may have been reasons why they could do it, but it happened, so I thought I'd raise it as the issue.
I think there were specific powers granted to new town development corporations that would enable them to do something like that.
Mr. Begley.
I'll whiz through my last three. What are the implications of SGD dates moving, particularly when we have issues with 5-year land supply? The MOD is a movement piece, and I believe they've changed dates in the past. If the MOD suddenly turn around and said we're not moving out until 2025, or not at all, what are the implications?
It's interesting that virtually all the questions are on St George's. In fact, as I mentioned earlier, we've got a very large document and many other sites on it. Anyway, in particular, the housing delivery for the first 7 years of the local plan is provided by other sites other than St George's. And the housing trajectory shows that at least 9 years before development of St George's will be relied upon for the 5-year housing supply. So I think that gives you an indication. I think the other point is that we will be reviewing the plan as part of the National Planning Policy Guidance. We must review the plan after 5 years latest. And so we will continue monitoring this to make sure, in fact, there's an annual monitoring framework. If you look at, I think, section 10 of the plan, it is section 10, thank you. You will find a monitoring framework, and again, that will be looking at this and making sure that if there is any delays, then these are items are identified within a modified part of the plan in 5 years or in 10 years' time, as it case may be.
Thank you. As your board of SGB, I'll go on to a different site.
Before you do, is there anybody else who wants to ask any questions or make any comments in relation to SGB and Woolfox, in fact, because it was both? All right, just SGB. Mr. Coleman.
Thank you, Chair. What I'd like to ask the Cabinet is, for example, if, where we've already engaged with the MOD, if RCC does not work for the MOD, potentially what could happen, as in, you know, could it be used for something else? Potentially what happens if we do not develop that site?
That's an excellent question. I'm not too
Mr. Brown.
Sorry, my apologies. Chair, I'm not too sure if some of the new members may not have seen the letter from the Secretary of State, Gavin Williamson. You may recall we saw that at a briefing last January, no, it was last January, I think, of all councillors. Has that been seen by everybody? I know Councillor Otto has seen
I
it.
think possibly not.
Would you mind me handing this round? Unfortunately, I don't have it in large type, Chair, on this occasion, but I think you've already seen it, so you're aware of what's in the document. This is a letter back to Sir Alan Duncan from the then Secretary of State for Defence, Gavin Williamson. I won't read the whole thing to you, but I will draw, in answer to Mr. Coleman's question, a number of points. It is undoubtedly fortunate for Rutland that the initiative of the Council in working with MOD has reached an advanced stage. And this is in March last year we're talking about, of understanding based on the MOU dated September 2017. Uniquely in such circumstances, by engaging with MOD in an early stage, Rutland Council has been able to reduce the number of houses that might be built from about 5,000 to 2,000 and has secured detailed control over design of anything that might be constructed. I'll also draw your attention to the next paragraph, the last sentence. It is therefore not at all true for the anyone to argue that if there's no MOU or no negotiation with the MOD, the County Council will be able to block development on such scale. And then finally, in the second paragraph on the right-hand side, in respect of alternative uses for the site other than housing, whereas there will be some quarrying on the eastern side of the development footprint, if there's a requirement for that material. This is a separate issue from housing, and all our studies, that's MOD studies, have concluded that the sort of mixed use some of your constituents have proposed would not offer the economic returns we require. And that clarifies the question you've asked, Mr. Coleman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is it about St George's?
No, it's about this letter.
Oh,
All I was going to say, would it be possible to add, make an amendment to the minutes? Because there are members of the public here who may not have seen it, and we haven't made reference to it, so I think in fairness it should be part of the minutes.
we can have it attached to the minutes.
Thank you.
Woolfox, which I believe is a different site. Explaining why Woolfox is not viable. I've read their viability statement, which suggests otherwise. What difference will the promised new submission on the 18th of February make, if any? And has their viability study taken into account things such as the minerals which are underlying it, which are outlaid, I believe, in the minerals policy of 2010, there seems to be a large amount of limestone underneath it, and the fact that only a small percentage is actually brownfield and the rest is open countryside. Why is it not viable when their viability statement seems to suggest to the contrary?
Mr Anderson?
I'll start off. Okay. Sorry, I wasn't expecting that. I think, first of all, I would draw your attention to the assessment that came to Scrutiny and Cabinet last time when we compared the two sites. And our starting point on this was obviously to work on the viability statement that was provided by Woolfox at the time. So if I read from Appendix 2 of that document that came, it says for Woolfox, the evidence submitted by Woolfox promoters is insufficiently detailed and does not conclusively support the site as a justified or effective option. In particular, this assessment does not include a range of significant infrastructure costs which would normally be expected for a development of this scale. The estimated return to the developer is low and benchmarked against normal customer practice, and the contribution costs per unit appear low in the light of significant infrastructure requirements. Some independent benchmarking evidence is recommended. So as a result of that, and obviously in the lack of flawed viability assessment, which in our view is what has now been shown again, we commissioned further work to try and plug some of those gaps, and we produced, looked at those elements where infrastructure costs were lacking. We went to a national organisation to provide that information. And on the back of that information, we then shared that information with all parts and asked them whether they wanted to rebut anything in terms of that additional information or challenge that in any way. They have not done so. That's the basis of our thinking around that. I think I'll hand over to Rachel and Fish to add anything more to that.
Thank you. Yes, that particular study was the exempt item on the previous scrutiny agenda as well, so you have that information. In addition to that, I think you mentioned the mineral reserves underneath the site. The site is a safeguarded mineral site, and it has been since the Mineral School Strategy, 2010, I believe. We have, when we initially liaised with the site promoters in October 2018 after they submitted the site, we provided them with a list of the evidence that we required to support the site, and we gave them a number of months to provide that information. That information still wasn't forthcoming by February 2019, but we did in April 2019 get a folder of some of the evidence that we required. However, key gap in that was the minerals resource assessment. That wasn't provided at that time, and it still hasn't been provided. In addition to that, some of the other evidence that was provided in that folder, as you will see from the assessment reported last time, was not seen to be fit for purpose, in particular landscape, and the viability has already been mentioned, and the highway traffic assessment, which Highways England has raised concerns about as well. We met with the site promoters in October last year to set out our concerns with the evidence that they provided, and to try and facilitate some liaison between their experts and our consultants, in particular regarding landscape and transport issues. To our knowledge, nothing has been addressed to resolve the concerns that we have with their evidence following that meeting. So nothing new has been provided. The viability evidence that you provided with that letter is the same as was provided in April last year.
Thank you for that. Before we go further into this, and I'm sure there are other questions, I'd like to invite the Chief Executive to make 1 or 2 comments.
Thank you, Chair. It's just a note of caution to members. An email was sent to you, I think yesterday, with legal documents attached to it. I've looked at the circulation list. I'm not sure that all members were on there, but I can't tell from what was sent. But members will probably have noted that one of the documents is marked up strictly private, confidential and commercially sensitive. Now, we've not been given any guidance from the people that sent that information out as to what its status or anything is, but can I just suggest to members that you may want to be a little bit cautious about referring to anything specific within that paper until we've had that guidance. And can I also suggest that officers the same?
Thank you. I will ask for absolute clarity on one issue, though, and it is about some of that confidential. Did I understand you correctly to say that what we were sent this week was the same as you had received previously?
That's correct.
Thank you. Any other? Sorry.
Sorry, Chair. Can I just add, there was a question, yes it is, because the question was asked by Councillor Bailey in relation to the minerals underlying the site. And I think you may recall again at the last year I presented this document to other councillors. The top one is for the chair. I've marked it up specially.
Thank you.
It's all right. And the others, I think nobody's colourblind when read, and I do have a problem. This is a map, and again we can put this onto the minutes of the meeting if members require. It's a map of the area of Woolfox, And the numbers in red, the small numbers in red which you see around the site and on the site of Wolfox, the red outlines the site of Wolfox, proposed by the developers. The numbers on that is the depth of limestone under the ground, taken from geological surveys, principally by Stuart Lloyd's, when they were looking for ironstone back in the 40s, 50s and 60s. And so this information is in the public domain. It demonstrates that there's between 19 and 25 metres of limestone in this area. The other point to remember, if you look at the minerals plan from 2010, which is still a valid document as we sit here today, as in the council, sorry, it's somewhat rude, this particular black line here is in fact the area under which the council would take interest from developers or from quarrying companies to look at minerals in this area, limestone minerals in this area. And this is a general indication, but I've tried to be as accurate as possible for members. So this is already in the minerals plan as it sits today, and therefore that's one of the reasons why no information has been forthcoming from the developers of Wolfox at all on the minerals, other than very much a desktop exercise. It does not compare with any other work we would expect. Thank you.
Thank you. Follow-up question, Mr. Becky?
Sorry,
I just answer my last question.
Sorry, there was one element of the question that we didn't cover, and that was the promised additional viability work that is referred to. So, obviously, it's difficult to comment on something when you haven't seen it yet. All I think we would say at the moment is our view is that it only concerns a funding mechanism for the new bridge to the new junction. And on that basis, we do not consider that that would make a significant difference in terms of viability assessment. The letter suggests that that new junction will be funded 50% through trunk road service area, which has never been discussed with us to date, and 50% by development of the first 500 houses. In terms of that, the estimated cost of that by the developer is suggested as 20 million for the bridge, which means you've got 500 houses that have to make a profit of 10 million just to serve that element of what's required. They say will be required to put the junction in place, but we also have to bear in mind that on top of that there will be other elements in terms of infrastructure that those 500 houses will need to fund. Which is why, as a general point, and it's only a general point because obviously we haven't seen anything in terms of further viability study around that, we would consider that it wouldn't make any difference to viability of the development at this stage.
Could I ask a supplementary on that?
Of course.
It's just come to my mind, what would stop Wolfox getting HIF funding?
Excellent question. Excellent question. The fact that the HIF funding application stopped in early March 2019. March 2019. And the only way in which HIF could be applied for was through a local authority. We had no approach from Wolfox, either on HIF money or on Garden Village money. And the local authority would apply for that money, not a developer.
Thank you.
Thank you. So basically in plain English, we are very comfortable that if there is a legal challenge against our contradiction of their impression of viability, we are sound.
I'll ask the professional.
Thank you. Any other questions on Wolfox? Mark?
I just wanted to clarify. So, just to clarify, the letter which members received yesterday, there's nothing new in there as far as officers are concerned. It's all just old information which has been rehashed. Yeah?
The only thing that is new is this promise of an additional viability report by the 18th of February. That's the only thing that we haven't had any correspondence about before. And interestingly, that letter hasn't actually come to Dance's offices.
Could I just add to that, that we, as Ms. Martin indicated, we did meet with the developers in October. We shared with them our assessment of the site and our issues outstanding with the site. We gave them a chance to rebut what we were saying. We gave them a chance to go and speak to our landscape advisors to argue whether they've got a case on the landscape. We've identified weaknesses that we've identified with both their traffic assessment and which Highways England have also identified with their traffic assessment, as well as the viability assessment. And at no time have they come back to us with any rebuttal of our assessment of their site.
Thank you, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything else on Woolfox, members? Mr. Peggy.
Finally, one of the options that's been discussed and mentioned at various meetings, in fact in Parish Council Forum, was why can't we roll back to the 2017 plan?
Right. Having reviewed and reassessed all the potential sites, there are no longer sufficient sites available, particularly around Oakham. In particular, one particularly large site, south of Burley Road, has been withdrawn by the landowner. We don't know the reason for that. And another large site, land south of Brook Road, is significantly constrained by highway constraints at the level crossing. Brook Road 1, which I think most members are aware of. Many of the sites in the allocated 2015 draft plan were large sites, 70 plus houses on the edge of local service centres. These sites are sensitive in landscape terms, and the objection to the scale and location of them were made at the 2017 consultation. These have all been fully assessed, and the evidence is in fact with members. So you can see the reasons that they've been rejected or otherwise, and other suitable sites. And I do point out that there are sites which were found suitable, and you'll find those across the right across the base, and some of those have not been put forward because there's sufficient development in each of those centres. I think members specifically asked a question previously on the spatial strategy. Are you making sure that the houses are being distributed right across the county? And in fact, that is the case in this particular case. And to make sure that, given a level of suitability, that they have been distributed.
Supplementary?
No, I've gone out there.
Do you have any other comments or questions at this stage?
Not relating to this subject.
Members? Rest of you. June?
I suppose this is about this is about affordable housing. And I'm quite pleased to see that we're actually looking to build more affordable houses in Rutland. With us actually having an ageing population, which 26.9% are retired at the moment, and this is forecast to go up to 40% in the future by 2036. We will need people to live here that can do the jobs that will look after us because we're all getting older. Those people need affordable houses to live in, nurses, care assistants, teachers, etc. Now, I then went back through the figures, and the figures don't stack up. So if we go to 2.2, it actually states that the population in 2017 was 39,697. It says it's projected to rise to 41,700 by 2036. Well, my maths is that there's only 2,000 increase in that over 19 years. If we take it that we're building 160 houses a year, those figures only allow for 105 people per year. If we're building 160 houses a year, it should be 320 at least if you have two people living in one property. So the numbers just don't stack up. If we have 19 years at 160 houses, that's 3,000 houses. Even if you only have two people living in those, that's an additional 6,080 houses, 6,080 people at just two people in per house. So the figures are way out.
I would refer you to the strategic housing market assessment because it isn't just about population change, it's about household formation change and looking at changes in the nature of household formation. So That was the basis for the difference. So it isn't about the fact the population is this and there's got to be that, and therefore we just need, take the percentage of 2 people per house to work out how many houses we have. We then have to look at the whole nature of the way that a household formation is. And the other factor around that is that we actually live in longer. That means that the turnover of houses is less on that basis. It is, understand what you're saying, because on simple understanding it looks like, how do you need this amount of houses to meet that population change? There are 2 other factors around that. First of all, we have to stick to the local government's assessment and calculation of what the local housing needs are starting from, which does it on a separate calculation from that. So it looks at population, but it also looks at migration rates and looks at factor for affordability in terms of looking at the difference between average earnings and average house prices, essentially. So I wish I could give you a straight answer. It is set out in the technical evidence that we have, which is set out in the strategic housing market assessment. So there is a firm basis for 160 houses, which has come out of the strategic housing market. There is a firm basis for 130 houses per annum, which comes out of the government's local housing need. That's going to be as clear as mud, I understand, but there is a sound basis to it.
Can I go back over? I don't understand that. So if you're looking, in 2017 we've got under 40,000 people that live here. If we are building houses at 160 per year, and those houses are being lived in, the population is going to increase more. It's just logic.
The basis for the work we do is we have to look at what the population is expected to change, and on the basis of that, also look at how the household formation is expected to change. We have to look at migration rates, and we have to look at the age of the population in terms of what the impact that has. So all those factors effectively go into the sausage machine that then comes out for a number that you have to have. So it isn't saying that, if you add this up, that's the end projection. It's taking the government's projection and saying, based on that projection, how many houses do you need to find?
I think Mr Hensley would like to add to that.
I would. I just did some calculations about the number of houses built in Rutland since 1968 to 2018. We've averaged 170 odd. And our population, interestingly, has increased by about 0.4%, which is about 175 people a year. So we're roughly getting 70 people as houses in the county because of the way it works. I don't understand the full math behind it, but I've looked at it. That's roughly the figures. Hope that helps.
Before I come back to you, Councillor Fox, I'm sure this is an issue that's actually intrigued a number of us. And I have sat in years past as chair of the Scrutiny panel questioning how we assess the number of school places we need based on the number of children. And it's similar scenario. And I was wondering whether members, more generally, might find it helpful for us to, or for the Chief Executive, to arrange for us to have a walkthrough of how the strategic housing market assessment works from officers at some point. Mrs. Briggs?
I was just going to suggest that members are aware that next Monday we've arranged some time for members. So if members were particularly interested in this subject, then the officers, I'm sure, would be more than happy at those times to walk you through what is an incredibly complex technical subject. But I think it might be illuminating for members to get that. So I think it might address Councillor Fox's concern around the validity of the numbers.
I don't wish to shut you off, Councillor Fox, but it's something I'm sure that quite a few of us have started to get an interest in. So are you happy with that as a way forward?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr Brown?
Just a point of information, Chair. Chapter 2 of the Strategic Housing Market Assessment is a key document to look at, fellow councillors. And if you read through that, at least you'll understand where it is when Mr Ranson refers to it on Monday afternoon.
Nevertheless, we will ask officers to walk us through it in the briefings that members are going to have on Monday. However, having interrupted your flow, Councillor Fox, do you want to come back on that point? No. Do you wish to ask any more in relation to affordable housing, which is where you started?
Not at this stage.
Mr. Becky?
I have an affordable question, housing question. The document lays out that we will be requiring 30% of all development to be affordable housing. Obviously, what we don't want to do is for 70% to be built in the first X amount of years and then put 30% at the end. How do we ensure that will happen? Have we got a principle such as releasing small parcels of land a bit at a time, which 30% have to be affordable, or is there another mechanism to make sure that it happens from day one?
Mr. Ransom?
First of all, the good news about 30% is the government's guidance is that this should be established at the plan setting stage in terms of viability. So the work we've done in terms of looking at the whole plan viability study effectively looks at all the policies and proposals in the plan, assesses what demand they are placing on developers, and still enables them to different typologies, different locations, still enables them to make a reasonable profit, and says that 30% is acceptable in Rutland. And that means that we should not be challenged on that 30% figure. The way, to answer your question, the way it's dealt with is through as and when we get planning applications coming forward. So that the request for 30% will be set within those planning applications through legal agreements. We have a trajectory anyway set out within the plan for looking at all the sites that have been allocated over the plan period. So we know different sites will be coming forward on a different timescales, some within the first 5 years, some later within that. And then as each of those sites come forward, they will be constrained or determined, supported through local legal agreements in terms of affordable housing.
Chair, could I just point again, this is a policy issue, and on policy H9E, you'll find that on very large sites of 100 or more, and I think this is the point Mr. Beggy was raising, affordable homes should be groups of no more than 10 homes in different locations around the site. So we're looking to have, on that basis, 10% at a time coming forward as a minimum.
So to be clear, this will get around the issue we're just seeing in some developments on my ward where all the affordable housing is put in one place, but effectively creating rural ghettos within the zone. Thank you.
Mr. Oxley?
Yes, this is the question I want to ask about affordable housing with regard to SGB. Given the fact that it states that the affordable housing delivery may be phased over the lifetime of the development, given the fact that we are trying to encourage families to move on to SGB in order to fill the school places and the like, how can the council ensure an even delivery? And why does affordable housing need to be phased in over the lifetime of the development if we're trying to encourage families in order to move there?
Yes,
all I was going to say is, the policy that Councillor Brown has quoted will apply to St George's. So whilst there are dedicated policies for St George's, obviously it will have, in terms of applications coming forward on that, will have to be compliant with all the policies in the plan as well.
I'd like to come back on that one. I had noted the policy that Mr. Brown refers to with great pleasure, I have to say, because I think it's absolutely the right thing to do, not to ghettoise. Good work there. But if you are building 100 houses over the lifetime of this plan, there isn't anything that I could find that said that 10% you had to build early on or in the same phase as the rest. There wasn't anything that stopped you doing those 10% at the end. And I think that's the essence of the question. And there are other bits in the document that suggests that it would be, whilst the 30% have to be over the lifetime of the plan, there isn't anything that says, and it can't be all at the end. And I think that's what members are trying to get at.
I think, if I recall correctly, Chair, in the evolving master plan, there's a description of pepper potting the affordable homes. And I think that's an area where the design and layout subgroup will be looking to strengthen the master plan. And the master plan ultimately will become a supplementary planning document, and therefore will be a requirement of the developer to look at that in their planning application, and that will be judged by the planning committee in due course.
Thank you. That is an answer for St George's, but actually my interest is wider than that because it's all the sites. And I went through all the documentation for each of the sites, and in none of them did it suggest that the affordable had to come early on.
Thanks for that. The planning process allows for, as part of considering a planning application, the drawing up of the legal agreements that Mr Anson was just referring to. And legal agreements always have triggers in them. And the triggers are set to ensure that the development continues and allows for the developer's cash flow to continue to allow the development to actually take place. If you constrain development by requiring all of infrastructure and affordable housing to be provided up front, the development just won't happen. So you've got to build in market factors into that as well. And therefore, on the larger developments, certainly the 100 pluses, we would negotiate triggers to ensure that affordable housing, along with other requirements through Section 106, are provided at appropriate moments through the development. And you will notice that will have happened on the Swinny Hill development, for example, in Oakham, where the trigger was met and the affordable housing had to be provided before they could move on to the next phase of development. And that's a normal practice in planning decisions.
Yes, Mr Brown.
Thank you. Could I point to sites for residential development policy H1? There's actually only one other site which is over 100 units, and that's the Landlock Burley Road Oak 13A. So that, therefore, the point we're making is only valid on that particular site.
Not necessarily, Mr Brown, because there are a number of sites where there will be affordable housing, smaller ones that are accepted. They are identified, and it's this general theme that I don't want to wait until the end of 2036 before we get our affordable homes, because it's a long way away, and goodness knows what might have happened by then. June. Sorry.
I found a question there. I know that we are stating we're going to build 30% of affordable houses, but is there any control that we can have on what type of affordable houses there are, i.e. rental, help to buy or shared ownership? I'm fully aware that shared ownership is very popular with builders. However, people don't always want to actually own a house. They would rather just rent, especially if they're only living here for a short period of time. Do we have any control to suggest that it's equally split on affordable housing?
Rachel?
So the NBPF includes a definition of affordable housing, and that's a national definition of affordable housing, and it includes not just social rent housing, but a range of home ownership products as well. Planning regulations don't allow us to specify tenure. However, we have included within the policy and the supporting text reference to the strategic housing market assessment. And again, that's a really key document because it sets out what the need is in Rutland and the types and sizes of housing that's needed. So we can use that document to try and influence the type and tenure that's on the site, but we can't actually require it. And the housing market area assessment will be updated regularly as well, so it will respond to changes in the needs as and when those changes are experienced.
So does that mean then that we don't necessarily, we won't actually get rental houses?
No, the MBPF actually requires that there is a split. So 10% can be provided as market ownership, as low-cost market ownership of the 30%. So we can control that some will be rented. The only way that the council can really control it is to build it itself.
Chair. Your previous comment, I'm sorry I didn't answer at the time, you asked about building the affordable homes as we went. And I think if I point again to policy 89, paragraph D, towards the end of that, we say that the homes should be well integrated within the open market housing through layout, siting, design, style. In order to promote sustainable communities, the size and location of groups of affordable homes should be agreed with the council. So we have that in the policy so that we can make sure this pepper potting issue that we've talked about before is actually in the policy.
Yes, I appreciate that. That wasn't my question. My question was relating to time of build, not where on the site. But anyway, we'll leave that. We'll move on. Did you have any others in relation to affordable housing, Mrs. Fox? No. Did anybody else have any in relation to affordable housing?
Well, supplementary to Jim's question, actually. As much of interest, a point you just raised about the only way we can control it is by building our own. Would we not consider developing our own for social housing?
Mr. Brown, do you want to answer that?
I'd love to. Part of the problem is availability of land, the cost of land, and then the proceeding from there. It is an issue. There is some land which is in the ownership of the council we've looked at, but again, the problem is it's got to be sustainable, and that is always a challenge. So yes, we'd like to, if anybody come up with ideas of land that we can get sensible prices, then yes.
There's a large ex-military base.
I think he's serious.
Mr. Oxley.
This isn't about affordable housing, but it is about housing allocation. Is it okay if we go on to a new subject?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So this is about development in neighbouring areas. Now it states in the local plan 2.41 that relevant statements of common ground will be available on the council's website to coincide with the public consultation. And this is with regards to our work with neighbouring authorities. And the question is, should this not be available for scrutiny, this relevant statement of common ground? Because there's also a question with regards to the Stamford North development. Developers and landowners of the sites have jointly prepared a Stamford North delivery statement. We can't find it anywhere on any website. Is it in the public domain? Can we have sight of it? There's also a statement of common ground which agrees that the housing allocation from the homes built on the Rutland side, 600 whatever, will go to South Castilian, and the seal money from the Quarry Farm area of the development will come to RCC. Is one of the relevant statements that will be available on the website. Why is it not available for scrutiny? And just going on from that, because it's the same topic, in the minutes of the meeting of South Castilian's Finance and Development Review and Scrutiny Committee, it was saying that members were interested in why Rutland might agree to allow the allocations to count towards South Castilian's numbers. I don't know if are we verging on going into yellow papers or no. It was noted that the development would bring wider benefits to Rutland, and this would be for Rutland County Council to decide. Could you give us some examples of the wider benefits that this decision brings to Rutland? Is one of the benefits the fact that without these 650 houses as part of Rutland's housing allocation, the case for building so many at SGB is strengthened. So that's the question. As I say, it's from Councillor Jones, so I can't take any responsibility for it.
I think Mr. Ransom's going to do it.
Okay.
might be a repeat of what I said at the Parish Forum meeting on Monday. Clearly there are people here that went to there. The starting point in terms of Stamford North was a study undertaken by South Esteem District Council looking at development, future development of directions for growth for Stamford. It's a border-blind approach because of the way the local authority boundaries are so close in terms of the built-up area of Stamford. Identified a large site that could come forward on the north side of Stamford. Subsequently, that site was taken forward, has been taken forward in terms of the South Castilian local plan. That local plan has been through examination. What normally happens actually to examination as the draft plan states at that time, there is an assessment of duty to cooperate issues and statements produced at that time. So there is a version of that agreement between the three authorities as drafted on that the examination pages itself on the website. We will review it again, and we are in the process of reviewing it again to do the same in Rutland. The work that was undertaken at that time, like I say, identified this site on the north side of Stamford. A key element of bringing forward that site and the approach taken by both authorities was to say to look at this coming forward as allocations in each plan. In Rutland, it was clear that it wouldn't, if you were looking at this site in isolation, it wouldn't be a site that we would consider in itself. It was contributing to part of a comprehensive scheme for 1,950 houses on the north side of Stamford. And because it was sitting on the edge of Stamford, it's by its nature, the services and the way people would be using that would, if you like, if you looked at a more microcosmic level, they would be forming part of Stamford's housing need and therefore contributing towards that scheme and and that approach was taken forward in both the 2017 consultation plan approved by Cabinet and the St George's plan approved by Cabinet. There is a history of such agreements being made between different authorities so that they can agree to meet their needs with different authorities. It's complicated further in the sense that, you know, ultimately, going back to the strategic housing market area, it's about the four authorities that make up that strategic housing market area, delivering the total of what's required within that sub-regional area, and then determining between themselves how that requirement should be moved out. In terms of what does it mean, what it means for Rutland is a separate application. If both applications come forward, will come at some time to Rutland, or be part of a single application that will come forward as proposed in the plan. The benefits to Rutland would be around the community construction levy, around new homes bonus, and around council tax benefits for that. If you have part of your questions about looking at what the benefits mean towards that.
Okay, thank you. I've got most of that.
Yeah.
Can I remind everybody, please, to speak into the microphone, because it is difficult for members of the audience in particular, who are our residents and are the reason we're here in the first place, if you aren't using the microphone. There was another element to your question, Mr. Oxley, and that was about the role of scrutiny in all this. This is a conversation that I've had a number of times with Mr. Brown, so I'm going to invite Mr. Brown to address that.
Which element, Chair?
My scrutiny hasn't been scrutinising this.
If we had something to scrutinise, I certainly would have it with you, Chair. We are in continual dialogue with the developers, their agents, the landowners, South Kesteven and Lincolnshire County Council over this whole project. We had a document which came to us last summer, in fact I think it was May last year. That was, we made significant changes to that. That has been passed back to all those parties, and as yet we haven't had a definitive response on those. There are actually going to be, let me just be clear, there's 4 different documents ultimately which will come forward, and I'm more than happy to bring them forward to scrutiny when they are in a form that starts to look more sensible. The first document will be the development brief for the whole of the site. And we are treating this, and one of the things you'll see in the Stamford North policy is looking for a single application to come forward. That has its difficulties, but we think that it's appropriate to have that in there. A single application comes forward on a development brief, like a master plan. That development brief will be a supplementary planning document, similar to St George's Master Plan. So that's the first document. The next document is an agreement of working process between the County Council, South Crescent District Council, Lincolnshire County Council, and other bodies. And one part of that, which I think is important for local residents in that area, is a liaison committee made up of parish councils. So that will be established as part of that. It's now called a memorandum of understanding between the authorities. It was a statement of common ground. It's now a memorandum of understanding. The third document is a document relating to the way in which the developers and landowners will go ahead with the development, and in particular the phasing. We've not been to this stage satisfied with the phasing that we put forward for all series of reasons. So we asked for another piece of work to be done on the phasing, in particular traffic movements. We believe that document on traffic movements is just about to be published and should be with us this week. That'll have to be assessed by our own people, our own highways engineers and our own experts. And then we will sit down again with the developers to understand what their phasing plans are. That will then be looked at in terms of the needs of that particular site, in terms of roads, school, there's a school plan for the site, and shops and other matters, and the impact on the local community. And we'll be looking for that. And that's an agreement between